So guys, this is a video why I think Errol Spence has messed up and why I don't think he's no longer the #1 welterweight in the world. Now, when Errol Spence went over to England to fight Kell Brook and he beat Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, I think at that time was beating Garcia, and then Keith Thurman took a long layoff. Long layoff. In that time Thurman was out, there was a consensus formed around Errol Spence being the #1 welterweight in the world, and rightfully so. He was a hot talent, a great fighter, and many people were rightfully saying that he's the #1 welterweight in the world. He's exceptional. And then beating Mikey Garcia, people were impressed. But Crawford obviously stepped up, beat Horn, and many people were questioning Crawford's resume. Then Crawford beat Khan and Benavidez, and Crawford showed that he belongs at welterweight and he's a top fighter. But here's why, in my opinion, he's messed up, and now why a lot of people think Crawford's the #1 welterweight in the world. If Errol Spence believed in his ability, he should have told Al Haymon to make the fight right away between him and Crawford. If he believes what he was saying when they both came face to face at a fight, I think it was backstage, and both of them came face to face, and Spence said to Crawford, "I'm going to crush you. I'm going to crush you when we fight. You're too small." But then he also mentioned something else in that interview, or that kind of heated debate that they were having. Bob Arum was there, Lee Setback, and all of those guys were there. He said, Why shall I fight you when I can have an easier fight with Sean Porter and knock Sean Porter out? Why fight you? That to me basically says to me and said to a lot of the fans that Errol Spence don't want that fight. Errol Spence doesn't want that fight with Terence Crawford. Listen, he would fight Terence Crawford, but he's looking at easier options in order becoming a unified champion, and then afterwards fighting Terence Crawford. But Terence Crawford wants that fight right now. He wants that fight right now. And Errol Spence don't want that fight right now, because he's just said that I would rather fight Sean Porter and knock Sean Porter out, win that title, then fight maybe the winner of Pacquiao Thurman, and then fight you. But to me, that the fans want to see you fight Terence Crawford. So by you not giving the fans that fight, I think you've forfeited that #1 spot. You're basically saying, listen, he's still fighting good fighters. He's not fighting bums. He's fighting great fighters. But the other top guy in the division is seen as Terence Crawford, who wants to fight you. And you don't want to fight him because you want to fight the other guys that fights that are easier to make for you. And fights that you think are easier stylistically. You think Crawford's a lot tougher fight than the guys that you're mentioning, that are fights easier to make. But for me, you forfeited that #1 spot because Crawford wants to fight with you. It's not like Crawford's holding up the fight. If Errol Spence and Al Haymon show urgency to make that fight, I think that fight happens right away, because I think Bob Arum really wants to make that fight, because there's no one for Terence Crawford to fight. Terence Crawford knows that he's got no one to fight, or no meaningful fight in the welterweight division to make or fight. So he wants that fight with Spence. Whereas Spence knows that there's many meaningful fights that are easy for him to make. Like Porter, like Danny Garcia, like Pacquiao Thurman. There's a lot of fights that are easy to make for Errol Spence, where there's not the same opportunities for Terence Crawford. This is why Errol Spence is going down that route. But because the fans want to see the fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, and Terence Crawford wants that fight, I feel like Errol Spence is forfeiting that #1 spot that he had, which he legitimately had. He was legitimately the top boy, but I think he doesn't want that Terence Crawford fight. Not because he's afraid of Terence Crawford. It's just the fact that he thinks that there's easier fights to make, and easier fights stylistically for him than Terence Crawford. And he can become unified and get hold of a couple of belts. But by doing that, I feel like he's forfeiting the #1 spot that he held. And now I think Terence Crawford holds that. And many people regard Terence Crawford as the #1 welterweight in the world because of that reason. Because they feel that Errol Spence has forfeited that #1 spot because Errol Spence doesn't want to fight Terence Crawford. It's as simple as that. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, guys. Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Leave your thoughts. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.